Germany, France, and Denmark, nations that once stood shoulder to shoulder with the United States, now find themselves leading a significant rebellion. Their target, the core of the White House. Their weapon, a full-scale, no-holds-barred trade war triggered by Donald Trump's latest tariffs. And the first casualty, Tesla. Once a celebrated symbol of innovation, the company is now watching its position in Europe collapse, with sales dropping by 76%. Yes, 76%. Elon Musk, once seen as an untouchable leader in electric vehicles, is now watching as Europe, the very region that once celebrated his success, turns away. But this isn't just a corporate setback. It's a volatile situation that could affect more than one company. It has the potential to spark a global economic conflict. This goes beyond a simple tariff disagreement. It's a struggle over the control of global trade's future, a trade war that could break alliances, harm economies, and reshape international markets. The trade war began in a seemingly minor way. President Trump, promoting a protectionist agenda, placed a 25% tariff on European car imports, citing national security. The reasoning, as before, was that American industry needed protection from foreign competition. But the consequences that followed were unexpected. Just hours after the White House's announcement, the European Union retaliated. Brussels imposed a 20% tariff on U.S. car exports. And the response didn't stop there. The European Commission, already frustrated by Trump's foreign policy, took additional steps against American tech companies, escalating the situation into a growing trade conflict. Ironically, those most affected by this new economic standoff are the very American companies the tariffs were meant to protect. German carmakers like Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz, though affected by the tariffs, have the financial strength to endure the situation. Their strong position in the European market allows them to absorb losses without major consequences. For American companies like Tesla, Ford, and GM, the situation is much more serious. U.S. automakers could lose an estimated $7.8 billion annually due to EU tariffs. For Tesla, whose future in Europe is now uncertain, the effects are severe. The company's decline in Europe has been significant. In the first quarter of 2025, its market share dropped from 14.3% in 2022 to only 3.6%. In Germany, its largest European market, the fall was dramatic, a 76% year-over-year decrease in sales. This is the biggest decline Tesla has experienced in Europe since expanding into the region. And it's not only due to tariffs. Tesla is also facing increasing competition. While it previously held a strong position as a market leader, European carmakers have improved their offerings. In 2024, Tesla raised prices by an average of 12% across Europe. Meanwhile, traditional European manufacturers like Volkswagen and Renault, along with Chinese brands like BYD, increased production and launched more affordable models. Volkswagen's ID.4 and Renault's Megane E-Tech now cost nearly $9,000 less than Tesla's Model Y after subsidies. These European EVs are more competitively priced and more readily available, putting Tesla's leadership in jeopardy. At the same time, Chinese companies like BYD are expanding rapidly in Europe, taking over parts of the market once dominated by Tesla. In 2024 alone, BYD's sales in Europe grew by 71%, while Tesla's Berlin Gigafactory is operating at only 42% capacity, down from 85% the year before. According to analysts at Morgan Stanley, Tesla's early advantage in the market is quickly disappearing. Legacy automakers now hold 70% of the European EV market and are steadily overtaking Tesla's former position. And then there's Denmark, a country whose political changes are becoming a sign of broader shifts. Regarding the entire European bloc's stance on Tesla, in an unusual move, the Danish government announced it would remove all government subsidies for Tesla in 2025. The reasons cited include Musk's public alignment with Donald Trump, his controversial connections to China, and his refusal to comply with Europe's strict environmental standards. Denmark, a longtime leader in the European electric vehicle movement, had previously provided generous subsidies for each Tesla sold. However, following Musk's open criticism of EU climate regulations and his efforts to weaken US emissions standards, Denmark is making it clear that Tesla is no longer supported. Without subsidies, Tesla's sales in Denmark have dropped significantly, from a strong 9.7% market share a year ago to just 1.2% in the first quarter of 2025. The move sends a strong message, and Denmark is not alone. Across Europe, governments are increasingly supporting automakers that align with EU climate goals and excluding those that don't. In Denmark, where 80% of new cars sold are electric, the political implications are clear. The government is distancing itself from Musk's company and promoting adherence to European climate policies. Musk's growing public support for Donald Trump is also having an impact. A 2025 YouGov poll showed that 71% of European consumers now view Tesla unfavorably. Musk's decision to host a fundraiser for Trump in Austin, Texas, and Tesla's $3 million contribution to Republican lobbying efforts aimed at rolling back emissions regulations have deepened the divide. In Europe, where climate policy is a central concern, Musk's political stance is becoming a significant disadvantage. The market reaction has been sharp. Tesla's stock has dropped by 27% since the beginning of Trump's second term, reducing the company's market value by nearly $180 billion. Institutional investors are also reacting. The Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund, once a major Tesla backer, reduced its holdings by 40% in the first quarter of 2025, citing concerns about geopolitical risks and regulatory uncertainty. Similarly, European pension funds managing over $3 trillion are reassessing their Tesla investments due to concerns about long-term instability beyond individual companies. The geopolitical consequences of this trade dispute are significant. Denmark's strained relationship with the US, partly due to Trump's previous proposal to purchase Greenland, has led to a deeper political rift. Denmark is now at the forefront of efforts to reduce Europe's dependence on US supply chains. In 2024, trade between Denmark and the US fell by 19%, while exports to China increased by 27%. Copenhagen is now pursuing new trade agreements with Beijing, signaling a significant shift away from US influence. This trend extends beyond Denmark. Across the EU, countries are increasingly prioritizing relations with China, marking a strategic pivot from reliance on the US. The Financial Times reports that Copenhagen is speeding up negotiations with Beijing to build new economic partnerships, pointing to a broader shift toward Asia. The economic impact is significant. In 2024, EU car exports to the US dropped by 31%, resulting in a $16.4 billion revenue loss. In response, the EU has imposed a 20% tariff on US car exports, projected to cost American automakers $7.8 billion annually. As trade barriers grow, the already fragile auto industry faces more disruptions. Mercedes-Benz has canceled a $2 billion expansion in Alabama, citing market instability due to trade tensions. Magna International has warned that production costs could increase by 12% to 18%, which could further raise consumer prices, and the auto industry is just the beginning. US technology companies are also beginning to feel the effects of Europe's stance.